Mark the G-man's words. We're in trouble, and it's here.
I don't know what will happen with Justin Trudeau. If he will take a walk in the snow and outside like his dad a couple of years ago.
You called it back then. We do not have a housing problem in Canada. We have an immigration problem in Canada.
Actually, as you know, I started to speak about immigration 6 years ago. I must admit that some journalists in English Canada were saying that I was a racist.
Just a disclaimer, the show is located in Quebec and we're allowed to be racist here.
What the conservative or the right could have been accused of racism maybe 5-6 years ago with the quoting the replacement theory. Clearly that replacement theory has turned into a literal immigration policy at this point and diluting the vote.
Right now, there are far too many people coming to Canada as a percentage of how well the economy is growing. There is no way we're going to be able to absorb this many new people, especially now with the economy going to be contracting.
Theoretically, the globalists are the ones that kind of work towards pushing immigration and mass immigration.
Conservatives and liberals are wings of the same bird, right?
If poilievre has a majority, that would be good for the People's Party because, I will be able to show to everybody that poilievre and the Liberals, that will be almost the same on big issues.
And we're definitely sharing the family value here in this studio right now, and we understand the importance of the family and the strong man in the family and importance of parental rights.
Actually, right now, I'm not sure if I will send my daughters to universities. Wokeism is everywhere. And also, we must remember that we have a legislation that was promoted by Pierre-Elliott Trudeau, the Multiculturalism Act, saying to people, when you're coming to Canada, you can keep your culture. You don't have to integrate in our society. You don't want to promote unity. You want to promote diversity. And that slogan about diversity is our strength. It was not the case. It's never been the case. And now we know. We know that there's no unity.
And Trudeau says, no, you're just being brainwashed by Conservative Party or conservative values. And those people are domestic terrorists. You shouldn't listen to them, and you should submit your children to us.
You have to wonder, if they're behind all the time and doing what government is supposed to be doing, then what the hell are they doing besides ruining Canada all the
But
time?
is it better to have liberal, woke judges or no judges? I don't know.
Good day, brothers and sisters. Canada has fallen, and it's up to you. Actually, a question to all of the audience. Are you staying to fix it, or are you leaving? Like a lot of people do. The show that we did previously on Guatemala is just about that. There's a lot of expats going to Florida, Texas, Central America, South America, Mexico. There's Ukrainian refugees that are going back to Ukraine in a war-torn country. Now, when you drive in Montreal right now, it looks war-torn. The streets have full of craters, looks like after Baghdad bombing. Canada is broke. Canada is a socialist country.
Canada's actually been nosediving since 2014, when Justin Trudeau first came to power. Business investment tanked from 79 cents per dollar of salary to just 55, so that's down almost a third, as $285 billion of investment capital fled Canada, over $3 trillion in U.S. terms. What's replacing productive investment? Government. Government workers are growing almost 4 times faster than the private sector, thanks to a doubling in government spending and a doubling in debt.
Private sector employees get to pay salaries of public sector employees who get paid twice as much, and they actually picketing about that every day, including today, asking for more money. Whose money are they asking from? So the solution is to run away and find a nice Christian country with a nice Christian woman and have a nice Christian family, or we're going to stay here. And as an immigrant myself, I went through that process. My family vacated a country before to come to the greatest country on earth at the moment, and now it's not. So did my family contribute to the demise of this country? And that's the immigration question we want to ask Maxime Bernier. Without further ado, Max, so good to hear you and to see you back on our show. How you been, champ?
Great. Thank you very much for having me back. I'm very happy, very pleased to be here and ready to discuss the big challenges that we have as a country.
Well, it's amazing to have Maxime Bernier here today, because I think Andre and Glenn, we're going to pepper him with answers or how we're going to solve the problems that Canada is in right now. We have fallen from a first world country. The only thing that makes everything look good on the outside is that it's the increased debt levels. It's all a facade, and we're going to pay for it. It's starting now already. Just reading yesterday that the unemployment is starting to spike. Here it comes, everybody.
Yeah, just looking forward to having this conversation with Max. Got a law background, business background, considering what we have ahead of us as far as a beacon of hope in our political landscape. So real happy to be here, Max. Real happy to be talking with you.
We actually talked about it in the previous show, and you called it back then. What was it? September, August that we did it? And you called it back then. We do not have a housing problem in Canada. We have an immigration problem in Canada.
We don't have a housing crisis in Canada. We have an immigration crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't have an inflation crisis in Canada. We have a deficit crisis in Canada because of these huge deficit financed by the Bank of Canada. We have that inflation.
And now, actually, curiously enough, the federal government agrees with you and they adjusted the student visa things, which you talked about on the previous show too. Now, you're not working for a federal government, but they're listening to your points already.
Yes, I'm working for Canadians. And actually, as you know, I started to speak about immigration 6 years ago in 2019 at our first electoral campaign as a new political party. And I must admit that some journalists in English Canada were saying that I was a racist because I was raising that question about immigration. But I must admit that journalists in Quebec they were okay with that because, as you know, Quebec is a francophone province and they want to keep their culture. And for Quebecers, it's important to have discussion about mass immigration, about immigration. And at the last general election here in Quebec, you had a party that said, 50K would be a maximum for permanent residents, another one 30K. But nobody were saying that, you're racist because you want to have fewer or more immigrants. In English Canada, that was the first time that debate was open. I brought that debate to English Canada and to all the country. They were not used to that. But right now, I was right at that time, and I'm even more right these days because we see the impact of mass immigration all across the country now. Not only the housing crisis and renting crisis, but also healthcare, education, and everything. So we cannot afford that. And you spoke about the international students. You're right that we had last year about more than 800,000 international students. And these people are coming here and they will need a roof. So that's why also we have a housing crisis. But also it's a new path to be Canadian citizens. Instead of using the official path, they're asking to be students. And we know that there's a lot of fraud in that. In Ontario, you have new schools that are saying that they will give they will give a paper, but no, actually it's fraud, and people are coming and they are paying fees just to be able to have that permit, international student permits, and after that they have the right to work. So the federal government just did only the first step, but we need to do more. They decided to lower the permits for international students by 35%. I think we must cut that by at least 60%. The provincial governments are using that to fund their universities. It must not be like that. If you want to go to universities, actually right now, I'm not sure if I will send my daughters to universities. It's wokeism is everywhere. But if you want to send your kids to universities, just go and pay the fees, but that's not the real fees. So the immigration, it's only the beginning of that crisis that we are having right now.
Well, actually, we just did a show. I'm going to stop with the immigration question in 2 seconds. We did the show with RCIC agent, and he said, even though what Canadians did in terms of the federal policy, overall immigration policy was not affected. And even though, like they say, we're going to low amount of permits, there's still there's such thing as a student on a student visa. There's a reunification process. Oh, yeah. So you can, on one end they're lowering the quota, on the other end they increasing it. So as far as we're concerned, the policy is not really affected by that. It just seems like a puff piece, really, like to make them sound good, but it doesn't really have any effect.
But you're right about the the reunification of family. If you read our platform for the People's Party of Canada, we will cut that reunification of family, because now for the federal government, a family is the huge family. It's not only mother, father, and kids. It's grandmom, granddad, brother, sister. And so you're right. If you have a student here in Canada, that person will be able to bring his family. And so sister, brother, grandmom, granddad, we need to cut that. But the Liberals and the NEP and the Conservative Party of Canada won't do that, because they are pandering to ethnic ridings near Toronto and near Vancouver. And these immigrants want to be able to have their big family with them.
So they vote Liberal.
Yeah, they vote Liberal, and they voted Conservative. So when I was a Conservative from 2006 to 2018, I was with Harper, and we had a minority government in 2006, another minority government in 2008, and we had our majority government in 2011. And we had a majority government because of these ridings. Harper and the Conservative government at that time was pandering to these ethnic community, and we increased the number of people who will be able to come under the reunification of family. And so Harper had a lot of support near Toronto and Vancouver, and that's why Harper was able to have a majority. Right now, Poilievre is playing the same game. So he's pandering to ethnic ridings, and they want to be able to have their huge family with them, and that's why Poilievre won't do anything about that, like Trudeau. So the solution is, you're right about that. The reunification of family must be only the real family, the father, mother, and kids, and that's it. But that was the case 25 years ago, but now it's not the case anymore. So we need to change all that, absolutely.
Right now, there are far too many people coming to Canada as a percentage of how well the economy is growing. There is no way we're going to be able to absorb this many new people, especially now with the economy going to be contracting. That's going to create the next economic paradigm. The next hard time coming up is that there's going to be too many people applying for the same job, for whatever jobs are going to be left after the mass layoffs. Herein lies the problem. Now, all this immigration just benefits the multinationals.
Yeah.
That's the Vanguards, the BlackRocks, the State Streets, all these
big businesses.
Big business, because it keeps the salary down, so it allows them to have a bigger profit margin. Herein lies the issue. And the government that's in charge right now, they're getting paid to allow all this. Okay, directly, indirectly, through NGOs, non-government organizations. In other words, we voted, I didn't vote, but a lot of people voted to have Trudeau as the prime minister again, and the Liberals. And they're the ones who are pandering to the globalists who want to weaken Canada, break it down, and then these people are going to come in and buy everything on the cheap when it breaks up.
We know that theoretically the globalists are the ones that kind of work towards pushing immigration and mass immigration. What the conservative or the right could have been accused of racism maybe 5-6 years ago with the quoting the replacement theory. Clearly that replacement theory has turned into a literal immigration policy at this point, and diluting the vote, obviously, because some of those people that did vote for Trudeau having second thoughts this time around. So why not pander to the ones that you're allowing into this culture and society?
But that's why, as the political party, we want to withdraw from the migration compact from the UN. For the UN, migration is okay. That's normal. You're a citizen of Zimbabwe. You must be able to be a citizen of Canada. So no, it's a privilege to be Canadians. And that being said, but the Conservative and the Liberals, they are okay with the migration compact, and we are not, and we need to stop that. Yes.
All right. Okay. So I'll just bring it up. You guys sounded like a bunch of xenophobes here, or whatever the proper term is. Definitely not racist.
That's the right. Yeah.
But we're in Quebec, so it's okay. We have all those bills 96 and language police and all this other stuff. And so, just a disclaimer, the show is located in Quebec and we're allowed to be racist here.
But that's the thing. You said this a long time ago about the immigration. We don't have a housing problem. We have an immigration problem. And right now, the Liberals, it seems like they're always behind the eight ball. They're never in front of it, able to prevent a bad situation from arriving. Yeah. They're not very good at what they're doing, and we need a new leader in there. And that person should be somebody with your qualities and your stature and your ideologies.
I don't know what will happen with Justin Trudeau. If he will take a walk in the snow and outside like his dad a couple of years ago. But the pressure is on him right now because the Liberals, the establishment of the Liberal Party of Canada, they want to stay in power. And if Trudeau is not the man, they will put a lot of pressure on him for him to resign. So I don't know, but if you look at the data and the survey today, Poilievre won't win the election. Trudeau will lose the election. Trudeau won't be able to win this election. So Poilievre will be prime minister, and that's why the People's Party has a role to play, because on immigration, Poilievre is not speaking about ending mass immigration. On climate change, Poilievre is speaking like liberals. We are in a climate crisis, but we are not. And on different important issues for the future of this country, if Poilievre has a majority, that would be good for the People's Party, because, I will be able to show to everybody that Poilievre and the Liberals, that will be almost the same on big issues. And so we will be able to, before the election next time, I'll say to people, if Poilievre is winning in the polls by 10 or 15 points, I'm going to tell Canadians, now you're going to get rid of Trudeau. Look, you believe in the polls, you're going to get rid of Trudeau. Now it's time to vote for your values, to vote in line of what you believe in, to vote for the People's Party, because will be your insurance policy that Poilievre will be honest and will be a conservative. So we will push Poilievre in the right direction. And we just need to have 1, 2, 3, 5 seats. I don't know. But we'll be there, and we will be the party that will vote and support Poilievre when he'll be a conservative and shame him when he won't. So it's a win-win, and I'm looking forward for that general election.
So guys, not to rain on anyone's parade. So we do understand that's the conservatives and liberals are wings of the same bird, right? But also, if you look at the immigration policy in the West in general, like Europe, neighbors to the south, Americans, they have an enormous problem with immigration, specifically illegal immigration coming from the southern border. And it seems to be guided by the powers to be, and it's not our elected officials. Now that we're aware of this, with things like Emergency Act being, I'm going to bring it up right away to the point. Now, in August and September, we talked about it. Can you give us a bit update on your legal case, and how does it, the new ruling by Supreme Court, how does it affect your case specifically, and how does it affect us as Canadians overall?
Well, I hope it will help us, because my case with Brian Pitford against the federal government, because as you know, during the COVID hysteria, we were not able to travel freely across the country. And we said, me and Brian, that it's, in line with our constitutional rights, we must be able to travel freely across this country. But we were not vaccinated, so we were not able to be on a plane, in a train, or in a boat here. Not only us, but all Canadians, unvaccinated Canadians. So we sued the federal government at the federal court. Didn't win. The federal court said, that's moot, because, the vaccine mandate is not enforced anymore. So you can travel, guys, across the country, and we won't listen your case. We won't hear your case. So we were not happy with that, because we said, what you're saying, it's like, somebody will steal a good and say, and we're going to sue that person. And, I just did that, but, what I stole, I gave that back to that person. So you cannot judge me anymore, because, I don't have that good with me anymore. So it's like that. The federal government won't respect the Constitution, and when we will sue the federal government, they're going to just withdraw everything that they did, and they will respect the Constitution. But the judge will say, no, I I won't listen your case. I won't hear your case because the federal government is not infringing your rights anymore. So we appealed that to the Federal Court of Appeal, and the Federal Court of Appeal said the same thing. We won't hear your case. It's moot. So what we are doing right now, we are appealing at the Supreme Court of Canada. I believe that we'll have a decision maybe in the next 3 months. The Supreme Court will tell us if they will hear our case. I hope they will. If the judges decided not to hear our case, that will be the end. And if they decide, we're going to be in Ottawa fighting for the rights of Canadians. But, I believe that what happened with the Emergencies Act can help us. It's a different case, but can help us. And, if a judge has the courage 3 years after the fact saying that that was illegal and unconstitutional, I hope that the Supreme Court of Canada will have the courage to say, no, we need to hear that case, and we'll see. But that fight is still on.
At least you're getting to have a sit down at the federal court. Apparently, Trudeau got rapped on the knuckles the other day for being like they need to hire at least another 80, 90 federal court judges. So a lot of the cases are being put back, and then they have to be thrown out because there's a time limit on how a person can be tried. So that was under Lametti, and the new Justice Minister and Attorney General, Arif Virani. Yeah. So that's like they're behind doing their work again.
Absolutely.
So you have to wonder, if they're behind all the time at doing what government is supposed to be doing, then what the hell are they doing besides ruining Canada all the time?
But is it better to have liberal woke judges or no judges? I don't know. So because as you know, we're not like in the US. When you want to appoint a judge in the US, that judge will have to go in front of committee. The both parties will have a discussion, and so it's open. But here in Canada, the Prime Minister just approve and appoint the judge that he wants. So that's very different. So maybe that would be good for a year, not to, because when they're on their seat, they're there for life. You cannot do anything. So you have a point there. But if Trudeau can just not do any more damages, and maybe after Poilievre will try to have judges that are not woke.
What are we going to do about the car thefts epidemic that's going on? I mean, we were consistently in the top 10 countries in the world where there's car thefts. And now I think we've shot up to number 3 in the world all of a sudden.
In one car, a phone number for the original owner, Leonard.
And I'm pretty sure I'm sitting in your once stolen vehicle in West Africa. Yeah, I'm in West Africa.
No way.
Yeah.
The other guy that was following his AirTag, you guys heard about that?
No.
He followed the car to a loading dock on a train rail.
Oh, yes.
He calls it in. CN shows up, or CPCN shows up, police to arrest him as he's still saying, my car's right there.
Here's the app right now.
Thanks to his Apple AirTag, Mark Roos knows where his stolen 2021 Dodge Ram TRX is.
It pinged in the port of Montreal.
Gatineau police telling him
They said they can't do anything because it is inside the port. Even though we gave an exact location and a screenshot sent to them, they said they have to notify port authorities and that they might not be able to do anything about it.
they can only intercept a stolen vehicle with police help when they know the specific container the stolen car is in. In short, an AirTag notification isn't enough.
Bottom line, I want my truck back. We know where it is. Just want someone to walk in there and I want my truck back.
And then he had to witness his car get transported, I think, from Markham, Ontario to Montreal, and now it's in Abu Dhabi. So like it's getting really to a point where we're laughing at it, but unfortunately violent crime falls into a statistic of that crime uptick that we're having right now, which is not really funny. But
and the solution is not to have a big discussion about that. Just change the law, be tough on crime,
Apply the laws.
apply the laws. That's it. Just do your job as a politician.
Even, the ironic thing is, even the Justice Minister, the Attorney General of Canada, he had his car stolen the other day. And it's 3 times they've stolen the car, that vehicle, from Ottawa. It's one bad thing after another with this government.
And everybody's paying for that. Our insurance, the cost of our insurers are good, and our cars is going up, and because of that,
Over $1 billion a year.
yeah.
Well, there's actually it's a callback. We call them back to vetted immigration because I mean, I lived in the country for 30 years. Je suis québécois, but the point is, I remember the downfall, even insurance. Remember, insurance changed because of all the insurance fraudsters. And who were the fraudsters? It was the clever Eastern Europeans, like Romanians, for example, would come and take advantage of the good, righteous laws of righteous people that resided here from the beginning. And again, this hasn't changed. It only, like, the housing prices, the insurance prices, the food prices, the gas prices, everything went down the hill. And that's partially, if not completely, because of the values that we inject back into the country through unvetted immigration. Like people that come here, they don't, like Brampton, Ontario, you might as well be in India. Again, it's not me being xenophobic or anything like this, but there's no assimilation with a lot of immigration. The same thing as Russians. A lot of the Russian people that live here, they contribute to society and they're good, but there's also a lot of Russian people that live in a neighborhood where predominantly only speak Russian, where they don't need to learn English or French or become accustomed to the customs of this country. And they take advantage of the socialist environment. They get on welfare, they get on other social support and all this other stuff. And we encourage this kind of behavior by implementing the laws that are in place right now.
Absolutely. And that's why if you want to keep that country first united and prosperous, you need to do something there. And the federal government has no intention to stop that and to put the legislation. Actually, we have all that because of the Trudeau government since 2015. Open our borders, everybody's welcome to our country. And also, we must remember that we have a legislation that was promoted by Pierre Elliott Trudeau, the Multiculturalism Act, saying to people, when you're coming to Canada, you can keep your culture. You don't have to integrate in our society. We are a country with multiple culture, and so that's why we have a Multiculturalism Act. And after that, Brian Mulroney implement that in a legislation. So now the message that we are sending to our new immigrants and the newcomers: keep your language, keep your culture. Actually, a couple of years ago, to come to Canada, you had to speak English or French. And that's not the case anymore. I'll give you a sad example. Pierre Poilievre was doing a press conference with the number 2 from the Conservative Party of Canada. And he started a press conference in Punjabi. So, we're not in India. But he has to speak like that because he don't understand English or French. So there's no integration, and that's the beginning of everything will go down the drain because you don't want to promote unity, you want to promote diversity, and that slogan about diversity is our strength. It was not the case. It's never been the case, and now we know that there's no unity, and that's sad. That's very sad for the future of our country, but we still have time to fix that.
Yeah, it's like you think you would want to follow the lead of the United States of America, the greatest, most powerful, the wealthiest country the world ever saw. What they did is they opened their doors to everybody to come, but to integrate into the American way of life, not to segregate and to divide everything up. And you would think Canada, we shared a border with them, two closest neighbors in the world, apparently. You would think it's right there. Why can't we follow what they're doing? I mean, it worked for them. And with all our natural resources, the second biggest country in the world, with a very small population, with probably the most amount of resources in the world, we should be at the top. And you know, with America, United States of America, the biggest economy of the world, the biggest consumers of the world, we would just be making money giving them what they want. But no, there's always these roadblocks put in, whether it's pipelines, whether it's tariffs, whether it's not good for the environment, and it's one after the other. Everything is slowing Canada down, and now we're in trouble, people. Mark the G-Man's words. We're in trouble, and it's here.
Yeah, the double whammy for me is, and what I got my eye on in socioeconomics, is inflation.
Yeah.
We know what an uptick in 1 or 2% of inflation causes as far as poverty, crime, violent crime. The fact that it hasn't been a political point in the past couple of years, and it's something they stay away from, to the point where we're just adding on to the inflation. It ain't going nowhere. They're not even, there's nothing in sight to let us know that that's going to be relieved at any point soon. So that mixed in with unaccountable individuals, you know, it's a recipe for disaster. It's kind of what we're living now.
You had said violent crime. Right now we have another epidemic, intimate partner violence and child predators. The reason why this is coming up to fruition so quickly and this evilness is because the penalties for getting caught are too lax. In China, for example, if you get caught with drugs, it's all over for you. Your history. If you're dead. So nobody wants to do I'm not doing drugs over there, you know. But here, oh no, it's anything goes. Herein lies the problem. Car thefts. In many countries of the world, if you steal something of a certain value, they'll cut your hand off. That's going to be a reminder, and they'll do it in front of everybody to say, look what happens when you're evil, when you go against the good.
So what do we need in our country? And that's what I must admit that Harper did when he was in the prime minister. Tough on crime legislations. What that means, it's very simple. It's, we had minimum sentences for certain crimes. So, but the Supreme Court of Canada, a couple of years after we passed these legislations, they said, no, it's unconstitutional. You cannot impose minimum sentences on different crimes. And so that's why now Trudeau came in power. And, if you do a crime, maybe you'll be in jail for a day. And after that, that would be it. But we need to pass legislation tough on crimes. And to be sure that that legislation will be enforced, we can use the non-abstending clause in the Constitution. And, that clause is saying, non-abstent the tribunals or the Charter of Rights, this legislation is enforced for the next 5 years. So if we know now that the Supreme Court of Canada decided to have it in a decision that, it was illegal and unconstitutional to have minimum sentences, I believe that we must go back and pass this legislation and using the non-abstending clause, and like that, it will be enforced for the next 5 years. That's the only solution if we want really to be tough on crime.
I'm going to segue. I'm actually going to circle back to the values. I'm glad you guys mentioned the common values that we share here. And tune in to Alex Sass Show to watch our Million Children's March review that we went to. When was it? September? Yeah, we went in September, and there's a nice interview here on our channel with Maxime Bernier talking about this. And we're actually having a Camille next week on our show talk about the next step. And we're definitely sharing the family value here in this studio right now. And we understand the importance of the family and the strong man in the family and importance of parental rights. Now, in light of everything that happened recently in Alberta and how terrible Tucker Carlson was when he came in and he convinced somehow Daniel Smith to do this terrible thing.
Al freaking Berta, baby. Albertans do not want children to make irreversible decisions that impact their reproductive health.
The week after welcoming far-right American conservative Tucker Carlson to her province to sit with him on stage, Danielle Smith has now moved forward with the most anti-LGBT policies.
And reiterate that parental rights are important and we need to protect children. And who's better to protect children than the parents themselves? And Andre, as you mentioned in that show, that it looks like the federal government try to villainize the parents as if the parents are the enemy to the children.
This isn't a question about parental rights. This is about keeping kids safe.
So what you're implying is that the parents are a threat to their own children. Don't want your kids to be raised by the state.
And they try to put the state in place. What value they share? Now, talking about penalties, and I'm going to be controversial. I'm asking all of you guys, not just Maxime. What should be the penalty for the perverts, the people that trying to, mutilate your children, quite literally? This is not the direction that we're going in. And this is sort of a counterintuitive question. Andre, you also mentioned it. The immigration that Canada has been bringing from like Muslim countries in Africa and even South America, those are conservative values. They're coming in here strongly with family values. And Trudeau says, no, you're just being brainwashed by conservative party or conservative values. And you.
First of all, there is an awful lot of misinformation and disinformation in play. People on social media, particularly fueled by the American right wing, are spreading a lot of untruths.
Those people are domestic terrorists. You shouldn't listen to them, and you should submit your children to us.
I feel like he's making a system to disenfranchise those parents by default as soon as they show up. If they have a system in place where teachers don't have to divulge information to the parents, they facilitate the state to enmesh themselves in that relationship. I'm already, heartbroken for these fathers showing up here hoping for a better world and trying to argue with their daughters as to, why do you hate me so much? Where does this come from? And I'm going to call Child Protective Services on you. You know what I mean? Like, we all thought of that as a kid. You put your hand up on me, mama. And pick this is a whole other kind of, like they're going to be stepping into this new jaded culture of statism involved in the household.
How do you feel about it? Did you go to Alberta? Did you meet Tucker?
Yes, I did. I had a little discussion with him. And I can tell you that I was there and it was very welcome. More than, I think, 3,000 people in Edmonton and 1,000 in Calgary. And the speech was about, our Western civilization values and the fact that Canada is behind that. And now, like Trudeau said, we're a post-national state. And that's not the case. But and he asked a question, and he did an interview also with Danielle Smith. That was a good interview, and about that transgender ideology. And she didn't at that time. She said that she will do something, and we know now that couple of days after that, she tabled a new policy in Alberta, and that was a nice beginning. That was very good. And when you see the mainstream media being against her, that means she did a good job. And she did a good job. But also, I was a little bit surprised by the mainstream media who did their job by asking Pierre Poilievre his position on that. And they put him in a corner because, Pierre is a very good communicator, doesn't want to speak about things that are controversial, and he's always focused on the economy. Believing that he will win the election like that because, our standard of living is going down. And like you said, we are or we will be in a recession. So the economy is very, it's the best argument to be able to be a prime minister. But speaking about the trends, that's a little bit more controversial. So Poilievre didn't want to answer the question, but the journalists were asking that question, are you against giving puberty hormones to minors? And he said, in the lip service, he said yes. And he didn't want to. But the real question is about what is the real position of Pierre Poilievre. He is the leader of the opposition. He can table a bill tomorrow morning in the House modifying the criminal code by not allowing puberty blockers to minors. It must be a prohibition. If he's doing that using the criminal code, it will be the same thing all across the country, not only in Alberta. But Poilievre won't do that because it's too controversial, because he's not doing politics based on conviction. It's on survey and pollings, and he knows that if he speaks about that, that will hurt his possibility to be prime minister with a big majority. So it's a little bit disappointing. He said yes, but after that, it's only everybody can speak and words, but the most important is action. And on that subject, you won't see any action from Pierre Poilievre, contrary to Danielle Smith. she's doing what she can do in her jurisdictions as a province, and I think she's doing a good job.
Yeah, I hear this a lot lately. A lot of people are saying, hey, it takes a woman today to do a man's job. And that's what she's doing. I mean, she's leading the West and doing an excellent job at it. But I want to talk about something that's even a little bit more, let's say, scary in the closet. And we're not talking about just incompetent Trudeau. I'm talking about what should be the penalty for pedophilia. What level should we go through? Because from what I've heard, pedophiles, they never get better. They only stay dormant for a little while. And then if they've given the right opportunity, they'll take advantage of it again. So, Andre, what would you do if you were the boss?
I don't know which angle to hit this from. If it's a cultural, then, the pedophiles, they'll tell you, the ones that have been interviewed, that what they do is seek out vulnerable children. That usually means a father not in the home. And to them, that's a green light to be able to find their way within, to victimize certain individuals. But then there's a whole legal system to how to deter this. How do we put penalties that are, speak volumes and could actually address this issue? But now we'd have to even go in a step further, in my opinion, criminally, as far as how do we, recognize the people facilitating this, even people that are not what they label as MAPS, minor attracted, just people using that terminology, people trying to intellectualize that to make it accommodating or sound, not respond, victimization, this is a condition and whatnot. So like the spectrum is very wide there as far as, on a home level, it's the family unit, making sure there's a father there. So the children, family is less vulnerable for them from these predators. And then on the backside is how do you handle them once you actually catch them in the act? And then how do you stifle this culture of normalizing this and accepting it in our society? Because I think we're already at that point right now.
And I believe that the first step that we must do is give all the resources that the RCMP will need to fight that. The Trudeau government is spending a lot of money, on different issues and PEP projects, but not on that, not on fight crimes and to give the resources that the RCMP will have to do a strong investigation. Because if you don't have the resources, you won't be able to bring evidence in a case. So that's the first step. And second one, I believe for these crime and this crime particularly, we must have a minimum sentence, and can be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I don't know. We need to have a discussion. But, people must know you do that, you'll be in jail for, I don't know how many years in jail without being able to go out. Without being able, you will have to take your time and be in jail for that time.
So basically you're saying, Max, is let the other prisoners take care of it.
Brothers and sisters, thank you for tuning in to Alex S. Show, and we'll see you at the part 2 of our show, because the show is way too long, but we couldn't cut it because it's way too important, and there's way too much information to discuss about future of Canada and what you can do. How can you contribute to yourself, to your family, to your community, and to PPC to make Canada great again. We'll see you in the next one.
Glenn, we make a community worse for everyone.